great Ron Bennington, everybody.
Nice. Yeah. See, I guess I'm playing the part of George tonight.
I know. I didn't know what to do. I brought the puppet because of the live fishbowl audience, but I schlepped them in for nothing. I guess they just want to talk to me. But
well,
okay.
it would be hard to unmask a puppet. That's
yeah.
Like, where were you first made? I guess we could go through that. What kind of wood are you made out of?
Yeah. Well, usually when I do radio, there's no point in bringing him because there's no visual part of it. But I have a problem getting his voice unless I'm holding him.
Is that right?
It's a weird malady that I have. I can't get the voice right. It doesn't come out the same way. Okay, release the cyanide tablet now.
It really does feel. This room does have the look.
Yeah,
of Last
these
Moments.
people?
Well, this is the jury, and they're the witnesses to prove that this is not cruel and unusual punishment. You were a guy who wanted to do this exactly what you were doing since you were a kid, though, right? I mean,
yeah, well, I used to watch Paul Winchell and Jerry Mahoney on TV,
sure.
and that warped my mind. I had to know how these puppets worked. I was very interested in the mechanics of these things. So I bought a dummy at a magic store in Times Square called Louis Tannen's. So I got my first dummy there. It was $350. It took me a while to save up for it. Before that, I was working with a plastic Jerry Mahoney doll that anybody could buy. They sell them on the internet now. But that's what I was fed by comedians and old monster movies as a kid. But the ventriloquist thing, I was able. That's what I wanted to do.
But working with plastic was enough. You needed wood to do it properly.
Yeah, I mean the plastic ones just move the mouth.
Right.
Yeah, the wooden ones move the eyebrows and the eyes closed and everything like that.
So this was like almost an obsession as a kid.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And I was also obsessed with Laurel and Hardy, and I couldn't find a derby, and I got a men's fedora, and I soaked it in water and put it in a what do you call it, a milk? What they used to deliver the milk in a milk box. And I put a frozen fedora on my head. My mother freaked out that I was going to get a pneumonia. I don't want to go to the fucking emergency room in the middle of the night. What's wrong with you? I'm Laurel and Hardy. Take that fucking thing off. She was unsupportive cunt.
Yeah. By the way, that's the first time that's ever been said on the show. No one's ever said that about their mom. And all the unmasked we've done, you know.
I have a good relationship with her. She's not going to listen.
You know, Bob Newhart was leaning that way.
Really?
Then he came back.
Wow.
But you had to be a pretty bizarre kid, I guess. Your parents must have been, should we just let him run with this?
Well, my father wasn't in the picture. He was a drunken Danish merchant marine. I didn't even know him. He left when I was 2, so it was just my mom.
Yeah.
But I had one uncle. My Uncle David was, he used to talk to me about comedians and turn me on to Benny Hill, for instance, and he took me to see Mad Mad World when it was re-released. So I had one uncle that supported me. He used to tell me to go for it. But everybody else in the family was fear-based. Don't try show business. We have something to fall back on. Finish high school, shit like that.
All that crazy advice.
Yeah,
we give children
practical stuff. It was practical stuff. But I was getting paid from the time I was 14. I've never held a day job, so I've achieved what I wanted.
It is fascinating that you've never held a day job, and I guess almost at the time that you start working like this and figuring it out, you're like, I'll do shows. I'm not going to do this at home. You know?
Well, I started on the ferry boats, doing the Manhattan to Staten Island trip and do a show there. I wasn't dirty then, so I could perform for anybody. And then I did Central Park, and the Village was good. You could work till 2 in the morning in the Village. People were bar hopping. The main problem with street performing was getting the first person to stop, because you just look like a lunatic sitting there.
seriously, I'd never thought of that concept.
Yeah.
But you have to start performing before the audience gets there.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. Like the magicians that I worked with used to just wave a handkerchief or do some card sleight of hand, and the crowd would stop. And then the problem was getting rid of the crowd because they would want to stay for show after show.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't like Washington Square Park. They would stay all day. But usually when you bring the hat out, the cheaper ones would leave immediately. and then anytime the cops chased me, I would get my best collections because I looked pathetic, putting the dummy away, the sad kid. So I would make a great collection if the cop every time the cop chased me, I'd make like $100.
I'm thinking at the time that you're doing this, you're a kid, and you're working in like the worst crime era of New York City at the same time. So
I didn't think about it, but I always had people looking after me. Yeah,
right.
I was always in busy areas. I knew where you don't go on dark streets. I was either in Times Square or Central Park. There'd be a lot of people around. I was pretty street smart.
And you got to be street smart to be a street performer. I mean, that's got to be the smartest guy out there because you're looking to also make a buck the whole time. What kind of money were you making as a kid?
I was making like $100 to $300 a day. I gave most of it to my mom because I had no use for cash then. And the one rule we had was we wouldn't spend any money that was over like an hour old. So if we wanted a meal or go to a movie or something, we would just do a show right in front of the restaurant or in front of the movie theater. It was cool. We wouldn't spend any old money.
That is amazing. Like, hey, that movie looks good. Let me get George out.
Yeah.
And,
it felt like I got it for free.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was good days.
So you do. So it almost was like at a young age, you didn't really value that money that much because it just kind of came and went. You gave it away.
The money, it was just to be out there every day with my friends. I hung around with a lot of magicians. I also was friends with Philippe Petit, the guy who walked the Twin Towers. He was a street artist, too. He used to draw a chalk circle on the sidewalk, and then he would ride a unicycle around and juggle bowling pins, and the crowd would, be around the perimeter of the circle. And anytime a cop would come to chase him, he would just jump into the audience, and then the cop would break through to the center of the circle, and there'd be nobody there, and the crowd would just be not ratting him out. It was hysterical. It'd be like a silent movie. Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, he was kind of like a silent movie guy too. Like that documentary that they did was just so beautiful on him.
Yeah, it's incredible what he did with the Twin Towers stunt. I don't know how he did that.
But did you know that was going to even happen before?
No, I met him after he had done it. He had been arrested, and then he had to do a free show, I think in Grand Central Station or something. He walked, a tightrope there, and then he turned down a job with Ringling Brothers, and he liked doing the street shows.
And for you, that was, you weren't looking further ahead than street shows. You were just like, this is great, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I knew it would come to an end at some point because the winters, you couldn't do anything in the winter except on the ferry boats, and those people were getting tired of me. And then I went out to California at one point. I was misinformed that street performing was encouraged out there, and I went out with this magician, this black dude named Chris Capehart, and he got arrested like within an hour of us getting there for what do you call it, panhandling. So I was misinformed. It was in San Francisco Fisherman Wharf.
Right.
Wharf is where they like the street acts, not in downtown Los Angeles. So we came back to New York. So I knew that was going to come to an end. Then went to the showcase clubs after that, like the Improv and places like that.
But did you think to yourself, I want to be in show business, or did you think I'm already in show business when you were street performing?
Well, yeah, back then I thought that was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But, show business really is movies and television and records. There's degrees of success. If I compare myself to Jim Carrey, I'm a loser. But if I compare myself to other people that have come and gone and packed it in and don't do it anymore, I'm successful.
Oh, absolutely. There's a few things that I think make you an absolute success. Number one is that you've done it all yourself, you're self-taught, and like you said, you'd never walk backwards. The other thing that's different from you than a lot of people that do your craft is that you have huge respect and love for you from your peers, and I'm talking about your comedy peers, where people think that you're just amazing.
Oh, well, yeah, comics like me, but they don't buy tickets, so who gives a shit, Yeah.
So much for that. I mean, shit to you.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of cool, I guess.
It's actually... It's phenomenal because a lot of people who do what you do, when they went into the clubs, they were immediately disliked by stand-up comics.
Yeah, any prop act was immediately, you're a boat act, you're a hack or whatever. Any prop acts, guitar acts, impressionists will look down, by the Seinfeld type guys. They just think a pure monologist is the greatest thing in the world. I really can't stand-up comedians for the most part. I think they're just lazy and self-centered.
Yeah. No one's ever going to fight that.
Yeah.
No one would possibly disagree. But even when you were out on the streets, you were kind of brushing elbows with some famous people. Being here in New York, working in the Broadway area, there was a lot of people.
Well, the greatest was John Lennon. John Lennon hung around with me and gave me $2, and everybody goes, "Well, did you save it?" It's like, I didn't know the guy was going to get killed. He was always there. You should have saved the $2. Right, here they are. Whatever. He was always in the park. But that one time he stopped, and then later on, after he was dead, and I read his biography, I felt good that I made him laugh during a troubled time in his life. He was kind of troubled in the mid-70s. So he was a heroin or whatnot.
But is that one of the things where you're like, okay, John Lennon just stopped by, I'm on the right track?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought shit like that was going to happen all the time. It was amazing. Yeah, it was so cool. He was really nice. He said, make sure the dummy gets at least $1.50. He was funny. He was funny. The Beatles were always funny guys.
Well, he always made sure Ringo got paid.
Right on.
But that to me, that time that you were doing that, it was one of the most amazing times in New York, because at one point the city was in real trouble.
Yeah.
And at other point, people like John Lennon were walking around, and there was great art being made. There was a great energy.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think of the city as being really dangerous. I mean, it was dangerous, but I just figured, I didn't know it was going to get better, so I had nothing to compare it to. You just knew, to avoid certain neighborhoods,
Like most in those days.
Yeah.
Most places you didn't go.
Yeah, very true. I always had a milk crate. If somebody fucked me, I could always smash him in the face with the milk crate. I needed that to put my foot on.
Did you ever have any of those kind of troubles where somebody tried to steal your hat or? Yeah, I got
George was stabbed in Central Park. Yeah,
it's so weird. I didn't read about that in the paper, but
yeah.
Now, who stabbed him?
A Puerto Rican. What do you think? It's kind of a cliche, but yeah.
Everyone enjoyed that moment before we edit it out.
Okay.
So
he was of Hispanic descent.
Oh, that's.
I know, because the scent was coming in my direction. But I still have a scar. I still have the scar here from that. I was holding onto the head stick, George's head stick, and he cut me here, so I was bleeding after that. And everybody thought it was a great story and a good compliment. Yeah. Oh, it's a compliment. They stabbed the puppet,
Did he realize that George
I think he was
puppet?
He must have been on angel dust or some heavy drug, because he had a weird look in his eyes. His pupils were gigantic, and he was fixated on the doll, and he wasn't looking at me, and he was like doing one of these and just getting all amped up, and then it just jumped out and said El Diablo and stuck him, and then he ran into the crowd.
Well, it is true that whole thing comes from an old spiritual thing, that ventriloquism. It was like supposed to be bringing back the dead and stuff, like when they first started doing it.
Is that right? I didn't know that part. But there's a creep factor to it from the Twilight Zone and all those movies like Magic. There's a subtext that people are scared of those things.
Yeah. At a certain point, does it start to hurt your feelings that if you're watching a movie or any kind of TV show that they bring that in, that's the murderer, the guy that you would be playing.
No, I like that. It makes people makes people leave you alone and kind of get out of your way a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I like that part of it. I like the dummy to be not too fluffy and cute and stuff. My doll is pretty scary. People don't want to be alone in a room with him.
Did you feel that way at all when you were a kid? Like when
was I scared of him?
Yeah.
No, because I knew how it worked. I knew it was just a prop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have that. I mean, I have a lot of mental illness, but I don't have the schizophrenia part.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's never been anything of why did George say that? God damn it.
No. But I guess there are moments when something comes out that didn't go through my brain first. It just came out of my mouth.
Because there are times that I've seen you and I thought, oh, poor Otto. I don't know why he has to put up with this asshole sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
He's really ruining it for both of them. And I swear, I felt like, when you did Letterman, I'm like, why is he picking on Dave? Why won't
Because I knew I wasn't going to be a regular on the show, and I figured, I've been watching the show for years and just going, he's a douche, I just wanted to say it out loud once, And plus, I felt like the whole ventriloquist week was kind of insulting. I mean, it was nice to give people in my profession a shot, but he was doing it kind of in an insulting way in his own, his own smug way.
And we know from what you've said, you think just the best out of stand-ups. Now,
yeah. Well, I mean, you didn't get to meet him. It was like you're hustled into a dressing room, then you're brought down, you tape it, and then you're brought back out. He doesn't speak to you as like a fellow comic.
Right? He doesn't feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's kind of mysterious, don't you think, Dave?
Yeah, I guess so. But I heard Jay Leno's like, he talks to you as an equal, and it's going to be fun and whatnot.
Right.
It would be nice to hear that from the star of the show. I'm a nervous wreck before doing that.
Are you really?
Letterman, I was nervous, sure.
Yeah. But all these years you've been performing since you were a kid, I think it would be.
Well, A, I had to work clean, and B, even though it's taped, it's still whatever they get on tape is what they're going to air. And if I bomb or I suck or I forget a joke, that's what they're going to show. It's it's taped, but it's still whatever they get.
When did you decide? Because everybody had kind of worked clean, I think, before you.
Yeah.
That did your kind of stuff. So when did you say, I'm going to go in a different direction with this?
It was mostly to get the comics to put me on early, because otherwise they had no interest in seeing a clean act,
Right.
Plus, I wasn't a kid anymore, and the novelty of being a cute kid with a dummy was wearing off, and I had to start, competing with the big boys and stuff, and they were putting me on too late, and I wanted the comics, if I said something really shocking, then the comics would be like, oh, we got to put this guy on, he's nuts, you got to hear him, and word spread like that.
Did you feel it the first time that you went in that direction? Was it planned, or were you improvising on stage where you decided, George?
No, I went home and thought about it, how to get the comics to like me, because they weren't welcoming me into their clique at that point,
So who were some of the guys that you were breaking in with? You broke in with some pretty terrific people.
Well, George Wallace, I worked with him a lot back then. Rita Rudner was around a lot. I mean, Seinfeld and Larry David were around, but they were at Catch, and I was performing downtown at a club called Good Times on 3rd and 31st. I felt more comfortable there than I was always intimidated by Catch. I was a little scared to go on there.
Again, it's another time that you were around where there was just remarkable stuff happening all around. Great acts were happening in those days.
Yeah, it was great. But I was going from making hundreds of dollars to like $15 for a set on a Saturday. So financially, it sucked in the beginning. But then I started working and I started opening for a lot of bands at the Bottom Line. I opened for a million great acts there: Madonna, David Johansen, Flo and Eddie, Cheap Trick. I was opening for all these people. It was great.
Now, how would Madonna say, I want this to be my opening?
No,
because I would never even dawn on me.
No, they didn't request me or nothing like that. They just stuck me on there to eat up some time.
You were with the Bottom Line people.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, did you say, hey, look at some of these acts I'm working with, or was it just a gig? and you were in and out of?
No, I wasn't too impressed with any. Well, Flo and Eddie I was impressed with because they horsed around with me. They hung around my dressing room.
Right.
You know, they had the big dressing room and I had the little shitty one. And then they had like 50 people in their dressing room and they just snuck out to come and hang with me in my dressing room. And they were making me laugh. They were really cool guys. Very nice to me.
Well, they are actually very funny. But from like, hey, don't you wish you could hook on to him? You should have probably been nicer to Madonna than
it was
Flo and Eddie. I mean, one's going in one direction, the other it's going the other. Like, fuck you, Madonna. I'm hanging out with Flo and Eddie.
Yeah, it's true. She was on the verge of becoming an international star. It was right before that all happened to her. She was just a smelly little East Village girl to me, you know? Yeah.
By the way, I think that's the name of her biography. It's Smelly Little East Village Girl.
Exactly.
So you were making less money by actually breaking into kind of legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, where do you go from? You can't street perform forever. It seems like a sad, life after a while. Just being out there, in the the street trail or whatever you call it.
But could you do it again? Could you just walk out of here right now and go out and just pick up money just doing this?
It seems like New York is just noisier and more crowded now. It doesn't seem possible to me. It seemed, I think about that a lot when I'm on Fifth Avenue or 45th and Broadway was another great corner for me. That's where I met Peter Falk. Peter Falk shilled for me for an hour. He hung out.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he all right, start the show over again. That was terrific. This is really working out. And then he kept, he put $1 in and go, come on, you cheap bastards. This kid's working on, and then he gave me $50 at the end of like an hour and a half. He told me I had a lot of guts. That was awesome.
And he was just a guy walking by, sees this.
Yeah, he had some time to kill before he was meeting some agent or something like that. Yeah, he stayed with me a long time. He stayed through like 5 or 6 shows. He was great. Wow. It was just like meeting Columbo. He was exactly the same. Yeah, it was amazing. He was so cool.
I think that those kind of stories are just phenomenal, though. Like, I mean, who else is going to have those kind of experiences? But it's
first-hand John Lennon story is chopped liver, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the fact is, like, you can't plan on any of those things happening. And being a kid,
I didn't get a fucking picture. That really pisses me off. That I didn't snap a shot with John Lennon. Boy, does that suck. I still get upset when I think about that.
You really look on the bright side of things, don't you?
Yeah. I know. You can't unscramble eggs. Yeah.
So when you look back over this, you really planned nothing along the way. Are there things that are there things that you wish you would have done differently, or are you kind of happy the way?
Yeah, I kind of wish I had gone to California maybe when I was like 16 or 17 and just tried it out there, the Comedy Store. But I don't think anybody really got discovered in those clubs other than like Freddie Prinze got literally picked out of the catch and put on TV. I don't know what's the point in hanging around those clubs too long. You got to get on the road. Well,
did you enjoy the road? Did the road work for you?
Yeah, I'm still on the road doing those gigs. It's great. I don't mind that at all. I love it.
When did you make the move from you're on the street, then you're doing New York clubs, and then getting on the road?
The comedy boom in the 80s was just happened, and everybody was working. Anybody who had a decent half hour was working like 6-7 nights a week. If you went to the Improv and just sat at the bar, you'd wind up going to a gig. Somebody would cancel or be late, and they would you'd be in a car on the way to a gig. It was the work was plentiful then.
Plentiful.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so also it felt like you were in one of those things where we're riding another wave, and it's going to go on like this for a long time.
Yeah, there weren't as many comics then. Everybody had a good act then. There's just so many awful people now doing it badly, and then they put these guys on TV. So then then somebody some farmer goes, I'm funnier than that fucking guy, jumps on a bus, and now you got another wave of less funny people trying to take over the comedy thing. It's just getting worse and worse. So the level of comedy.
One of the big problems for you is farmers getting on buses and saying, let me be in this.
When is enough? How many stand-ups do we need? You know? Jesus Christ.
But you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess they're following kind of the same path that you followed, right? As
they're trying to win the lottery. They know these sitcom guys make millions of dollars, and they're trying to get that big, thing. But how many of these people would have been performers if they were born before television and radio and the comedy clubs and strip malls? Would they still have been performers, or are they just trying to, find a lazy way to make a living just by, yapping?
See, that's the thing about your profession is it goes back even before stand-up comedy.
Yeah, I believe so.
Around.
Yeah. I guess they used it for black magic. You said I never read that. Part.
It was not even black magic, but it was like a form of spirituality. And then later they burned all these people.
Good.
But they would say anybody who could do that. It was like they were bringing in, and you would pay them like you would a spiritualist.
Oh, you mean like a seance?
Yeah, like a seance.
$50 to talk to a dead relative.
It was fucking
carny work. If you want to talk to him while I drink a glass of water at 75.
Yeah, you're right. It was basically carny work.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
That's interesting.
But then even like the vaudeville stuff was, you had to have a real act. You had to be able to do something physical, not just stand there and talk.
Yeah, I should have been born back in those times. I think I would have been friends with the Marx Brothers and Fields and those people.
Those are the people you most relate to.
The golden age of comedy is. I can't get enough of that shit. It
is. You do seem like a man out of time. There's no doubt about it. Like
for sure.
Your entire act, and I mean, I'm going to want to get into a little later with the pig roast stuff. If you guys have seen the show, it does not feel like a modern show, at all, except for that you curse.
Yeah, it looks like that. What do you call it in Casino with De Niro has that shitty show in Vegas.
Right.
We tried to, with the dancers, the Vegas showgirls. Yeah, we tried to give it that tack.
What gave you that idea that I want to head in that direction of
doing a show on the internet?
Yeah, doing a show on the internet, but you make it look like the early days of TV, whether you set out to do that or not. I think there's just some kind of energy around you. That you're a guy out of
maybe
time.
The creator of the show, Bobby Capelli, came up with the entire idea of the show, so I had nothing to do with that other than being the central character on there. Just on the internet, you could just shoot it and put it up there. You don't have to get approval from a network to do it. It just makes sense. So maybe I'm getting in on the birth of a new medium.
But yeah, and as you're doing the birth of a new medium, you brought back the old one, variety, which was kind of the stuff that you loved when you were a little kid, right?
Yeah, like where anything could happen, like the Dean Martin show, where people just walk in the door. Hey, look who it is! It's John Wayne, and shit like that. It's great. I love that.
And you've also been able to get some big names to come in and do the show.
Every big time comic that I asked said yes, except Nick DiPaolo. But I think it was the way I asked him. I had a third party call him. I think if I had called him directly, he wouldn't have said no. He would have been. He would have felt bad to say no to me. But everybody else said yes.
And you called them directly? Who are some of the people that you've used?
Louis Black, Jim Norton, Martling, Jim Florentine. They all said yes immediately. They just said, just tell me when. It was great.
I think that the whole idea of it is so funny. And again, it's something that kind of looks new, but at the same time couldn't be more familiar. It's like, I think there's something about variety shows that are in our DNA. Almost. It's like, how do we keep doing something different?
Exactly, a variety show. We had everything the Tonight Show had, except a good desk. We had a band. I had Big A, who's here, who's my co-host.
Where's Big A?
Big A's here.
Now,
yeah.
What gave you the idea of putting Big A? On the show.
Yeah, as a co-host, a guy who doesn't say anything, and then when he speaks, he stutters. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I just thought he worked out. He showed up one day, and we just threw him on the couch, and he was just good. He's just good. He relaxes people.
Does he really relax people? Because I don't know. If I sat next to him in the bus, I don't know how relaxed I would feel.
Yeah. He's a big wet sponge in the summer too. When you squeeze him, you get.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to squeeze Big A at all. But that could be one of the new bits that you do. Have people come in and squeeze Big A. Now, the guests, when they come in to do the pig roast, do they know what you have planned for them, or
well, because we weren't paying anybody, we tried to get them in and out as quickly as possible, and then gave them the option if they want to hang out, they're welcome to. But I wanted word to get out that you're in and out. We interview you, and then we shoot the closing credits where everybody's milling around on stage like Saturday Night Live, at the end, the end credit thing. So we did that on purpose to get people in and out, so it would be painless,
And so first season is done, right?
Yeah. We wound up doing about 15 shows of it. Now we're trying to do a second season. I want to do it in Vegas. There's so much talent to pull from out there, I feel like I've pretty much used up everybody in the New York area that I know anyway.
Right.
I was 90% of the acts came through me. They brought a couple of those oddballs like the Fire Eaters and stuff.
Right.
But I got all the big time comics to come on.
But you feel comfortable around the Fire Eaters as well. That kind of stuff is
the Carney.
the Carney stuff for you.
Love
works.
That shit. Yeah.
Which again is Penn and Teller, of course, huge fans of yours, and they're the same way. They love that same era that you're crazy about.
Yeah, they like me, but Penn I find very hard to talk to. Every time I tried, like he was talking about how he couldn't stand Peter Sellers, and I was like, really? Could you explain that to me? You didn't like, the Pink Panther was seen in every country, so everybody in the world is wrong and you're right. He goes, I go, what about Doctor Strange? No, I didn't like it. The book was right. It's like just one of those guys where everything he says is like the truth, and he's big and opinionated, you know what I mean? He's like, everybody's afraid to have an opinion around him because he's a famous guy or whatever. I was trying to argue with him, sticking up. I felt good. I stuck up for Peter Sellers,
Sure.
Yeah.
Because Peter Sellers can do your career so good right now.
Yeah, it's true.
Angela can't.
Yeah. Good point. I'm stupid. Yeah.
Is there a bridge that you wouldn't burn? Do you enjoy hey, here's this bridge burning. I'm on the wrong side of it.
No, I didn't think of it as burning a bridge.
Because I can tell you that he only speaks very well of you.
Yeah.
He thinks you're terrific.
Well, when I see him in Vegas, you brought backstage to the dressing room. I mean, it treated me great. They get me free seats, and then you brought to the dressing room, and then they don't talk to you, and I was getting nervous. I go, I was trying to keep the conversation going, and nothing. They're eating. They're sitting there with these dead eyes, and they're eating their after show snack, and I'm trying to talk, and all right, are we done here? Why the fuck am I here? Am I not as famous as them, so they're not going to engage me? In a conversation. All this paranoia kicked in.
You do run some of that where it's very important for you to think that everybody's on the same level, right?
No, I don't know. I mean, it just seemed like, why make sure I'm brought backstage if you're not going to talk to me? I didn't ask to come back. I've already met them. I know them both. But they, the girl after the show was over came over to me and said, "You're Otto? Okay, follow me. Come back to they call it the monkey room. That's their dressing room and whatnot." Mm-hmm. And then they didn't fucking talk to me. It was weird.
Letterman didn't talk enough to you. Penn and Teller don't talk enough to you. I'm sure you got some Obama opinions because he hasn't called you lately.
I mean,
but you would expect him to be wide open, like John Lennon was.
Why would he care what I think? I'm a harmless puppeteer. Is that wrong to want a conversation when I'm in?
Well, I wasn't there for it, but I thought maybe they just did their show. They were exhausted. They were having a little something to eat. A lot of times when performers are talking a lot, as soon as they're done, the kind of energy drops.
Then why bring me backstage? Why just say they're going home? They're tired tonight or something. You know? I mean, if somebody's in my dressing room, I feel obliged to keep it. Keep the conversation going.
Keep it going.
Something. Yeah. What, are you going to sit there in dead silence and not say anything? It's weird. I know I'm an odd person, but that just seemed weird.
Now, you have worked with all kinds of people coming up too. I mean, just about everybody that's come through New York you've worked with at one time or another.
Yeah, I used to work with Eddie Murphy back in right before Saturday Night Live. He was cool. We used to meet in Flushing, Queens on 71st and Continental, and we'd meet there and take the bus to a club called the Rainy Night House in I think it was Kew Gardens, Queens. And then when we would drive to a gig, Eddie's thing was he would always fall asleep when we got to a toll, so he wouldn't have to like chip in money.
Sure.
But he would do it funny. He would like snore loudly with his head back. But then he used to say, "I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 21." He would say it every time I was with him. You know, before they even had that positive, thought shit.
Right.
But he
thought shit.
Yeah. But he did. He did pull it off. He was a millionaire by the time he was 21, and I remember that. He would always say it. And then he would spend a lot of time working on his hair in the car. He would do that picking and patting thing.
Yeah.
He did a lot of that. Yeah.
What did you do to ruin that relationship? How did you... Eddie, you're never going to make it, and you're dog shit. I'll see you later.
If Eddie saw me now, he'd remember me.
Oh, I'm sure.
No, nothing. He went on to movies, and I was doing fucking ground rounds for $75 in New Jersey. Yeah.
Who do you consider like your class of guys that you came up with? That like everybody that normally breaks into comedy, there's certain guys that they kind of started with that they feel like,
a couple of them are no longer here. My friend Bob Woods,
who I think is one of the funniest people.
Did you know Woods?
Yeah, I knew Woods from when he came down into Florida.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Well, he was a great impressionist.
Yeah,
and there's just jet white kind of hair.
Yeah.
Kind of looked like a bigger Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah, exactly. It was like knowing Gleason. He was like our Gleason.
Yeah, he was. He did have
a
a real great Gleason thing.
Yeah.
And here was the great thing about him, and he should be one of the guys that's remembered.
Yeah.
Whenever there was comedians that would come into a club, they would find out that there was no open bar because Bobby Woods was there the week before.
Yeah.
He would drain them.
That's true.
He was one of the finest drinkers.
Oh my God!
You'd ever want to meet.
Away. You had to make a will out if you were going out drinking with him. Yeah, serious lush. He was funny though.
And that was one of the guys that you started with.
Oh, did a billion gigs with Woods. Yeah. But I mean, we were both the closing act, so we weren't a lot of times on the same bill. But we would meet after the show at my friend Chips. He was Don Ippolito then. Now he's known as Chips Cooney, and his house was like Party Central. After the gig, we'd all meet up there. So the fun was after the show stuff, right, the ride back. It was never about the gig. The gig would be the last thing we talked about.
So it was never about the performance, but now the show's over. We have money. Let's party.
Exactly. It was the 80s. Everybody had a sack of Coke on them, and everybody was partying around the clock. You know.
And you enjoyed that as much as anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, too much.
Now, at what point do you find out? Because we all do find out that's too much. Did it start to take a toll on you, or?
Yeah, I mean, when you start buying it by yourself and didn't just do it when somebody had some, then it gradually becomes a problem. And then when you're doing it alone, then the problem is escalating. And then canceling a gig here and there because you're hungover or stuff like that.
Right.
That's when it's a problem. When you choose that over your show.
It becomes a very dark place. And you're right. By the time you're locking that second door, where you got the front door locked, then the bedroom door locked.
Yeah, exactly. Spider-Man's out there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Then it's just you and the package. You're like, what happened to the party?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you start to get together with your friends, and then later, when it's bed, they're like, "You have any Coke?" Nope. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
Going into the bathroom.
Pot's the only drug I don't regret ever doing. That never hurt me at all. Pot was never a problem. It was, alcohol and Coke. Those are more harmful.
And you're away from both of those now.
No, I still drink. I just don't do the blow. Yeah.
But you do think it's a problem, even though you keep going with it.
For me, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. It would send me right back to the shitter if I did it again. Yeah. Right.
But what about alcohol? Do
I consider that a problem? No, not at all. I can take it or leave it.
So you, with Coke, how did you finally say, all right, I'm going to pull away from this? Because not many people,
I had a friend who committed suicide. My friend Seth, who owned Pip's Comedy Club. my dog died, and this all happened within like weeks of each other. And I was like, I said, I'm going to be dead if I don't stop this. Because I was just too many things were happening, and I felt like I had nothing to come home to. My dog was gone. It was just that's what did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was like cold turkey from that point on.
Yeah.
No help, no outside help.
I went to a few meetings, but I was out of my league. These people, like, I shot my grandmother for a rock of coke,
Right.
and, I'm going to rape somebody after this meeting. I go, these people are really like drugs, It's
Right.
like, I felt.
By the way,
I didn't have any stories as good as theirs,
By the way, thanks for keeping their stories anonymous. Still,
yeah. Well, I'm not going to name names. Yeah.
But so you just felt like, and I mean, because you were doing it for a long time,
Yeah.
right? But you were able to pull back.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing,
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple of times I tried it after that, but it was a different feeling. My body rejected it. It didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't work anymore.
Yeah, you really don't run into a lot of people who are like senior citizens going, "Oh, still enjoying coke, really? Still loving crack, working out for me."
Yeah. It's diminished returns. It's not fun after a while. It just becomes a problem and an expense and horrible. It's not fun.
And is almost the exact opposite of what you want to give to an audience, right? I mean, you play it a little bit cynical, but I know you like to get laughs and you like to make people happy.
Yeah, you never know when you're giving your last performance. You know what I mean? You could be shot in the face, on the way to the car. So, try and give a good show so people talk nicely about you when you're gone,
I know I surely will.
Yeah.
I'm only going to say good things to you after. But there is this dark thing that you go back to of, like, I asked you if you like to make people laugh, and you're like, yeah, because one day I'll get shot in the face and this will all be gone.
Well,
There's a cynical thing there, but it's weird with you because it's like cynical and sweet at the same time, which I guess is your act if you really think.
Well,
about
I'm trying to just distract myself and not think about death every moment of the day, but it's always there for
It's
all of us.
looming for you.
Yeah, for all of us.
Yeah.
Why?
What have you heard? What says a little sooner? When did you start to? Did you always think about death this much? Is it?
Yeah, when I heard that Laurel and Hardy were dead as a kid, and I would never get to meet them, I was pretty upset about that.
And that was that day for you. That was the worst day. From that point on, you're like, if Laurel and Hardy can die, anyone can.
I don't think I thought about it then. I don't know. I guess it's not something that comes up that much. I guess I'm just saying it to just say something.
Right. I know from you and Penn and Teller you don't like dead air, but and just like whatever you think about Penn, Teller doesn't speak, so you can't blame him.
No, I had a good conversation with him. He talks a lot. He was cool.
Was your hand up his back?
No.
No, I know that. I know he's a very interesting guy.
Yeah, he's very. Oh, and then a friend of mine had told me that his family goes back to like the Revolutionary War because he's from Philadelphia, and my friend was from Philadelphia. And then I said to Teller, I go, this buddy of mine said that your family was like in the Revolutionary War. He goes, it's complete bullshit. He made it up. Whoever said that. I went, oh God, my friend's a liar because he said it with such conviction.
Right.
And then I said, because I could see you in a powdered wig, and he kind of giggled at that.
Right.
Because it just made sense. Something about that story seemed authentic. And then I had to go back to my friend. I go, why would you tell me something that's complete bullshit? I embarrassed myself. I flew 3,000 miles to go, no, it's not at all true. Now I'm a jerk off. And Peter,
did you find out why your friend just made it up out of nowhere?
who the fuck knows? Because he knows that I know Penn and Teller, and I think he wanted to impress me that he knew something about them that I didn't know. My idiot friends.
Yeah. Who are some of the other folks that you've worked with on the road over the years? I know you've done it with
Adam Sandler. I did a bunch of gigs with him.
Is this before Adam took off as well?
Saturday Night Live, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not really a great story about Adam. I have a great John Belushi story.
Sure, I'd love to hear it. I'm a big fan of his. Were you as well of Belushi?
Belushi?
Yeah.
He's all right. I like the Blues Brothers.
Right. Well, he was in it.
Yeah. He was in it all right. There was a club called the UK Club, which was an after-hours club down on 13th and like 3rd Avenue. So my friend was the bouncer there. His name was Rockets Red Glare. He was an actor too. He was in.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think. Was he in Basquiat too?
He was in the movie Talk Radio with Eric Bogosian. He's the guy who kills Bogosian. He's a real creepy looking guy. And Belushi was there that night, and he was making a lot of trouble. He kept going into the DJ booth and taking the record off, and he had this one record that he wanted to play over and over. And then Rockets comes over to me, and he gives me money. He goes, "Get him the fuck out of here! Take him up to catch! Get him the fuck out of here!" And Belushi was with this really hot chick that he was ignoring. So we hailed a checker cab, and I sat in the front of the car, and the girl was in between me and the driver, and Belushi sprawled out on the back of the floor of the checker cab all the way uptown, and he was singing Johnny Be Good and drinking out of a bottle of Jack Daniels, and fucking ignored this girl the entire night. And then we got up to catch, and he went down into the basement and put out a big pile of coke, and he was sitting there on a stool under a light bulb in a filthy basement with this pile of coke. And then the comics would go down and just say, "Hey John, what's up?" and do a line. And then he stayed there. Like at the end of the night, I closed up with the bartender, and he was still sitting there sweating and staring at this pile of coke. It was like, but I said, this is going to be my Belushi story. I was like, I'm going to remember everything that happened, because I knew I'd probably never see him again alive anyway. So that was kind of sad seeing him sitting there with that.
How long was that before he passed away?
He had already... before he died?
Yeah.
Well, he'd already done a couple of movies, so it was probably a year or two before. Yeah.
So...
He was a mess.
I can't believe the number of people that you've bumped into in your life, and all of it strange.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There's never just like a normal story. All these stories are insane.
Yeah. Another time when I was street performing, every time Yul Brynner was doing King and I at the
What? Okay.
At the Minskoff Theater on 46th and Broadway, he was doing a revival of the King and I, and then I'd be in the middle of a show, and a limo would pull up, and fucking Westworld would jump out and bust up my audience. You know, everybody go, "Oh fuck, it's the guy from the Magnificent Seven, holy shit," and ruined my fucking show. And then one time he caught me between shows, and I was just counting my change, and he came over to me, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I busted up your tip. Would you like to come to a rehearsal?" So I got to see him rehearse at the King and I, but I only knew him from Westworld. I love that movie.
Yeah, he did a few other movies besides that as well. But these are crazy stories. Have you ever thought about writing them down, or is not?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna write my story in a bunch of chapters. I think I have some good stories.
Yeah, you've got some good fucking stories. You've got some crazy ass stories.
Yeah.
You definitely do.
Yeah, I mean, think I can get a publisher?
Yeah.
Really?
Why couldn't you get a publisher?
I don't know. I always think I'm not famous enough. I guess, I mean, if I shoot the president, I'll be more famous, right?
Don't even say that. Don't even say that at all. I don't want to be on CNN later going, I don't know, he told me all these crazy stories. I should have figured he was going to do something weird. No, I definitely think that your story needs to be told, particularly since, like I said, very few people do what you do in the way that you do it, and you're completely self-taught.
Well, a lot of times, Well, a lot of times when I do these radio shows, they're always trying to egg me on to say something bad about Jeff Dunham, who's the obvious big guy in my field. And I think he's great. You know, he doesn't do what I do, but he doesn't have one definable character like I do. He has like a whole. He's more of like Jim Henson. He's got all these characters. You know.
Yeah, you know what? If I was to be totally honest, I wouldn't be comparing with what you do to other people do, because I do think it's absolutely unique. And I think the thing is, it's not even about jokes, but when you and George are together, it's hard not to see two people. And I know that's almost ridiculous to say, but the personalities go in such different places that it's beyond what I think of as jokes.
Oh, thanks. Well, All in the Family was a big influence on me. The dynamic between Rob Reiner and Carol O'Connor. I'm the Rob Reiner half, and George is the racist, sexist, homophobic, angry, doll,
Yeah.
But if there isn't somebody, fighting for the cause of good, then he's just an evil character up there alone,
Yeah, it would be kind of interesting. You should just both do the same lines.
Really?
Just, yeah, you're right, man.
Well,
fucking women.
That would be a small clan meeting. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I always think that one of the things about this is like sometimes when Otto gets into it, your face is just like so pained, like, oh, dude. That it just slays me.
Because I attack the audience a lot, so I figure if I'm attacked as much as them, then it doesn't look like I'm victimizing a customer in the audience. But during one of my slumps, I wasn't talking a lot as myself, and it would just be George doing like a monologue. And I met Al Lewis, Grandpa Munster, told me, he goes, there's no you up on stage. Why are you even there? He goes, without conflict, there's no comedy. And I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, well, why are you up there? You're not talking at all. It's just a puppet. So that reminded me of what the act used to be. I guess I was in a bad rut. I was just phoning it in,
That which can happen when you get an act that works.
Definitely.
It's like,
I was phoning it in. But when a guy like Grandpa Munster, who's done everything in show business, tells you something, you listen. I respect him. It's not just some guy.
Yeah.
It's Grandpa Munster, so I listen to that.
Right. Sure. Who's not going to listen to the grandfather of the Munsters?
Yeah.
He's got a cape. Well, he used to have a comedy club.
Yeah, he did. He was a big dude.
Yeah.
Very tall. That fucking Fred Gwynn must have been a huge guy. Because Grandpa was gigantic. He was very tall.
Right.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah, Fred Gwynn was 12 and a half feet tall.
He was?
No, frighteningly tall.
Oh, my God.
Well, Fred Gwynn also wore the shoes.
Yeah.
Just so,
He spent more time in the Frankenstein makeup than Karloff or anybody else that ever played the monster.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you love the old monster stuff. You love all that.
Yeah, I do.
What about do you like any of the new stuff, like with CGI or...
Well, I don't like when zombies move real fast. I think that in the zombie world, when a zombie is chasing you, they can't outrun you, but there's just so many of them, and they're going to chew through the wall or scratch through the fucking wall and get to you.
Right.
But now the zombies move like really fast. I don't understand that,
Dude, this is a chapter in the book.
Yeah,
this is the stuff people need to hear.
Yeah, we're almost in zombie weather, too.
Wait, I got to stop for a second and try to figure out what zombie weather is.
Yeah.
There is zombie weather?
Well, Halloween,
Oh, Halloween, okay. No, because I was thinking, is it fog? Is it mist?
Yeah.
You love Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's weird because in a lot of ways, to even think about that, what you do is, I guess, like keeping that eternal thing going.
What eternal thing?
Well, it's always Halloween. There's still a connection of childhood because you've got that thing and you've managed to turn it into a living.
Well, I was in Vegas just about a month ago, and David Copperfield, I'm name dropping shamelessly here.
No, you know what?
But he's got this museum out in the Nevada desert where he has all the magic and all the ventriloquist stuff, and he's got one of my Georges there, and which is an honor. But it was kind of creepy because I was the only guy in there that was still alive and breathing because he had Charlie McCarthy and Howdy Doody and all these dead motherfuckers, and I was there, and my dummy's in the middle of the desert.
Right.
Yeah. Lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Well, we were basically talking about kids still being connected to childhood.
So
and stuff
when I was standing there looking at the actual knucklehead, I felt exactly like I did when I was a kid and I watched that TV show. So all the years just went away. It was great.
You remember the first time that you watched that show, or?
Well, not the first time, but it was weird because it didn't look like I remembered it. But Trish told me it's because I saw it on a black and white screen like this big. It looked different. Knucklehead looked dark. His skin was darker and his hair was different. Yeah, because I had only seen it in black and white television.
You ever hear what Paul Winchell did on the side when he wasn't doing ventriloquism?
Didn't he work on an artificial heart?
He invented the artificial heart.
How diverse is that?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well,
how do you make that jump?
Well, look at you. You were out snorting coke. So each of you.
Yeah, but would you trust an artificial valve from a guy who has a puppet?
Yeah, the valve was going like this. Hey, everybody. I'm going to make blood flow.
You're flatlining, you fat fuck. Yeah. Really? I gotta tell you, it's been amazing to sit here and talk to you, man. And man, thank you. I'm glad I made it into the top 100.
Yes, yes. We're not going to go past 70.
Really?
With that Donato. Yeah.
Okay.
But you and I have been talking about doing this for a long time, and the stories are amazing, man. And I know it doesn't mean a lot to you, but the fact that other funny people think that you're funny, I hope you let that in, dude, because you're an amazing performer.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you so much for being here. Otto, everybody.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.